Hi, welcome to the last video that we're doing on factoring. This one is on factoring the sum or difference of two cubes. This is kind of a generic form here. You've got two terms here, both being cubed, and it doesn't matter if it's addition or subtraction. Now, unfortunately, with cubes, there's a pattern to remember. So we're going to show it to you, but it's not that bad. Trust me. So here's an example. X cubed plus 64. 64 is actually 4 cubed. So the first thing we're going to do is rewrite as a base to a cube. So x is x cubed and 64 is 4 cubed. Then we're going to write parentheses for both a binomial and a trinomial. So think when you're doing cubes, it's a power of 3. So in this case, one of your factors is going to be a trinomial with 3 terms. Now we're going to write in the signs, and I know this seems counterintuitive, but again, just follow the pattern. We're going to write in the signs that separate the terms in the binomial and the trinomial using the same, opposite, and always positive. Well, we started with an addition, so we're going to bring down a plus sign, that's the same as what we started with, to separate the terms in the binomial. And then the opposite of that is subtraction, and then the last one is always positive. There's an acronym to help you remember that. SOAP, SOAP, for same, opposite, always positive. Think of a cube of soap. Now we're going to drop the bases into the binomial. So we're going to bring in the x and we're going to bring in the 4. There's your binomial term. Now we're going to fill in the first and last of the trinomial by squaring the first and last. So take the x, square it, and we get x squared, which makes sense. X times x squared is going to give us our x cubed. Same thing with the 4. Square it and we get 16. 4 times 16 gives us our 64. Yay! So we have our first and our last terms. So now we're going to multiply the x and the 4 to give us our middle term. So x times 4 gives us 4x. And there's our middle term, which is one of the reasons why we did the signs first, so you wouldn't get confused whether it was a positive 4x or a negative 4x. And there's our answer. So let's try another example. This one's a little bit more complicated. We do have cubes, so we're going to rewrite the 8 as a 2 and then an x being cubed. So there's our base of 2x. The 125y to the 6th is actually 5y squared being cubed. 5 cubed is the 125. Y squared, if you cubed it, would give you y to the 6th. So rewrite your bases as something taken to the power of 3. Then we put in our parentheses, binomial and then a trinomial. Then our signs, same, opposite, always positive. And then we're going to drop our bases into the binomial, 2x and then the 5y squared. And then we're going to square the 2x to get our first, and we get 4x squared. We're going to square the 5y squared to get our last, which is 25y to the 4th. And then multiply the 2x and the 5y squared to get 10xy squared in the middle. And there's our final answer for that one. So you do have to remember the pattern. So here are 2 problems that I want you guys to try. Don't forget to rewrite them as bases cubed, binomial, trinomial, SOAP, and then drop them down, square them, and then multiply. So when you're ready, pause the video, go ahead and work them out, and when you want to see how you did, hit play again. Are you ready to take a look? All right, we've got 2 terms. So we're looking to see, is it a difference of 2 squares or is it a sum or difference of cubes? We do have a difference, it is subtraction, but we don't have a y squared, it's a y cubed. 8 is also a cubed term. So we can rewrite it as bases cubed. We have a y cubed minus a 2 cubed. So here's our bases, the 2 and the y. And remember, with a cube, one of our factors has to be a trinomial. So we're going to have a binomial and a trinomial. And remember our signs. We're going to start with the same as what we started with, the opposite of what we started with, and the last one is always going to be positive. So you can remember the acronym SOAP, same, opposite, always positive. Now for your binomial, remember we just drop down the 2 bases, the y and 2, and then we square those 2 to get our first and our last. Y times y squared would give us the y cubed. 2 times 2 squared would give us the 2 cubed, but 2 squared is 4. So square the first, square the last, And now we need to multiply the two bases together, which gives us a 2y there in the middle. So this seems to be the one that most people forget, is to multiply the two together to get the middle. But this is our final result. Whoop. So let's look at the second one. This one looks more complicated, but it's still the same thing. We have two terms, they're cubes, but this time they're being added. So rewrite the bases. That 27 is a 3, and then we have the x, both of those being cubed, plus the 64 is a 4 being cubed. So there's our two bases. So here's our binomial, and here's our trinomial. So remember our acronym for our signs, same, opposite, always positive. So we started with a plus sign, so it's going to be the same, plus, the opposite of the plus, and then always positive. Then we drop the bases, and if you look, your binomial, if you rewrite them as bases being cubed, your first binomial is almost like you're just hiding those exponents, 3x plus 4. If it was a minus, it would be a minus. Okay, so be sure that you rewrite those as bases being cubed. So 3x and 4. So 3x squared is a 9x squared. And then our 4 squared would give us a 16 there at the end. So we've squared our first and our last. And now we have to multiply these two together to get our middle term. 3x times 4 gives us a 12x. So again, remember the pattern. So how did you do on those two? Notice you probably had to keep your notes nearby so you can remember the pattern and remember what to do in order to factor them, and that's fine. The more you do, the less you're going to need your notes, okay? So if you need to refer back to them, that's okay. So a few things to remember again about factoring. Let's sum everything together. First of all, look for GCF. May have one, may not, but you have to take it out if there is one. Also count your terms. If you have 4 terms, then we can factor by grouping. If there's 3 terms, we can use trial and error or the multiply, split, and group method. 2 terms, now we've got 2 things to look for. Either a difference of 2 squares, which means we'll use conjugates, x minus a, x plus a, or we can have the sum or difference of cubes, which means we're going to use a binomial and a trinomial, SOAP for our signs, and then we do the drop, the square, and the multiply. So you're done with the factoring. Yay! Now you can get on with your life. But hopefully it wasn't that bad. And don't forget, if you have any questions, watch the video again, look for other videos, but ask somebody, your friends, your teacher, your tutors, somebody. Don't let your pride keep you from passing, okay? Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.